I'm Jeff Cunningham, professor at Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Thunderbird School of Global Management. Welcome to IconicVoices.tv.
My friends, Moldova, by economic indicators, any organization will tell you, is the poorest nation in Europe. And it is not a member of NATO, and it is a prime target of Vladimir Putin. And because of the extreme poverty, there is terrible human trafficking that goes on in that country. Young women routinely are taken and sold or stolen and taken into other parts of Europe or other parts of the world. It is so sad and heartbreaking. It is wrenching because these young women are in their teens, obviously. I'm proud of my wife and other organizations who are working very hard on this issue. It is so horrible, a lot of us just shy away from it. But all I can say is that Moldova is also experiencing extreme pressures from Vladimir Putin, and the politics in the country are very uncertain, particularly because of the poor economic conditions. I will do everything in my power to see that there's free and fair elections, no matter what the outcome of it is, and also to help address this terrible tragedy of what's happening to young women in that country. That if you go to Moldova, my friends, and you walk down the street of the capital, you will not see young women. You will not see them. On the issue of refugees, I'm a federalist. I believe that the government closest to the people is the best government, etc. But the refugee issue is a federal issue. It's not a state or mayor's issue. And I believe that if since this threat is real of an ISIS attack, then we should have a legitimate screening process to make sure that no one comes to this country and kills our citizens. And I think that in the meantime, we ought to have a pause until we put the procedures in place so that Americans can be sure that anyone who comes to this country is for the right reason. I do know that for a long period of time, since the end of World War I, when some colonels in a tent divided up that part of the world, as I'm sure you know, that they were they got along with each other. Sunni and Shia got along, Kurds got along. By the way, the Kurds are the largest ethnic group in the world without a nation of their own. I think it depends to some degree on the outcome of all this conflict and this fighting. And there's no doubt right now, there's many complicating factors in this whole ISIS, Bashar Assad, all of these issues, but one of them is the tension between Turkey and the Kurds. The Turks now are attacking the same people that we are supporting, KKG, and it's gotten very, very complicated. I know that there are many people that just sort of accept that there's going to be a de facto partition between Sunni and Shia and Kurds. I just don't think it's quite that easy. First of all, the question is what are the boundary lines? That might be of interest to those different groups. I think they've got a very good prime minister. I think he's doing a good job. I think there are very intense pressures from Vladimir Putin. I mean, very intense. As you know, there's a many centuries-old relationship between Serbia and Russia, and they are putting enormous pressures, the Russians, through the media, through activities that are less than legitimate in my view, and of course they are appealing to the Serbian people because of this relationship that you're very familiar with. The Serbs, as you know, fought on the side of Russia, and there's very great deal of cultural and other relationships that go back between Serbia and Russia for a long time. Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of that. I believe that the Prime Minister is trying to steer a middle course, and I think he's pretty obviously, as you know, the most popular leader in Serbia today, and I was very favorably impressed by him. I think it's the economy, and for the first time since 1980, national security, terrorism, foreign policy. Obviously, that's triggered by the San Bernardino and the threats that we see of ISIS to the United States of America. First time in many years. The 2014 election, well, let me tell you, the 2012 election, foreign policy, national security was 8 or 9 in the priority list of the voters. Now it's right up there at the top. As you may know, 2 of my sons, one is on active duty, a Navy pilot, and the other is in the Guard, and he's served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I think when they tell me, but I also, you made an excellent point. I have seen many outstanding public servants who stayed too long. And the tragedy of that is you remember them how they were at the end and not how they were when they were at their best. And I don't want that to happen. And I can assure you there are some people in the Tea Party that believe that that should have been long ago. I think that if it were Donald Trump who were elected president, he would have the endorsement of the voters of America. I think that that when they vote in this election, one of the factors or issues they will be voting on is the next Supreme Court justice and who they would like to choose that justice, not a lame duck. And I'd also like to point out that President Obama announced his filibuster of Judge Alito back a number of years ago. And it was the Democrat leader Chuck Schumer who announced that in 2007, when we had a Republican president, that rather than choose a Supreme Court justice, we should wait until the next election so the American people would endorse it. Proving again that old adage, it's not where you stand, it's where you sit. I think that what ISIS has done is pervert an honorable religion. The scholars that I know on the Muslim faith reject totally the ISIS approach to their interpretation of the Quran. But having said that, we need more and more, we need a lot more of our leaders in the Muslim community, the respected clerics, others who are leaders, to stand up and condemn ISIS. I want to see more of that, because young people who are choosing what kind of the Muslim religion that they support, I don't believe are getting enough direction from respected members of the Muslim community. It's one of the more difficult challenges that we have. I would argue on K through 12 that competition is important, and one of the reasons why I support charter schools. I am not arguing that charter schools are better or worse than public schools. I am arguing that with competition we find excellence, and that's one of the reasons why I think our program here in Arizona on charter schools is good. As far as college education is concerned, frankly, I don't have a lot of good answers on that, on secondary schooling. I do know that we should make loans more available. We should have more scholarship programs, but we're still seeing an inordinate rise in college education costs that far exceed that of inflation in America. And I think we're going to have to sit down and have a dialogue about it. Cyber is the challenge of the 21st century. Our former chairman of the Joint Chiefs was asked, what about potential challenges that America faces? He said, we have a significant advantage in every challenge except for one, cyber. And my friends, there is no doubt that the threat of cyber attacks can do all kinds of terrible things. So we have to spend money on it. We have to have a policy, which we don't have now. And we're going to have to get some of the brightest minds in America to work on it. And that may mean something like a cyber corps of people who are really trained and good in understanding cyber, rather than the traditional way up through the military or the civilian service, where it is a major challenge.